Hey guys, MBG here today to talk to you about the burning question on everybody's mind. What is going on with the 32mm base thing, right? So let's just take a look at the timeline because I guess that's kind of important when we're trying to figure anything out, right? So we get the Deathstorm box previews, and immediately, after people don't really see that many new models, everybody notices that the Death Company is on some bigger bases, and we take a closer look, and it looks like 32mm bases based off of some product offerings that Games Workshop has for the next week after. So, whoa, 32mm bases, what's going on with that? Nobody knows. Nobody knows. So that's cool. It's an interesting thing, interesting concept. Maybe it's just for the box set. So then we get the Blood Angels Tactical Squad pictures that are coming out December 13th, right? So you see those. And then they're also on 32mm bases. So now everybody's like, whoa, is this a new standard? What's going on? Do I got to rebase all my minis? The sky's falling, right? So let's take a look at it, all right? So first off, I have a ridiculously, embarrassingly large amount of miniatures. I am embarrassed by how much stupid stuff I have. But I love them. I love each and every one of them. And I want to hug all my minis. But I can't. And neither can I rebase them all. I'll absolutely not rebase them all. I spent stupid amounts of time and money with resin bases, custom bases, Secret Weapon Mini, Dragon Forge. All these guys make great stuff. It's all 25mm. It's staying that way until I make new models. If I buy a box set and a 32mm base comes, then it's going to be on a 32mm base. That's just the way it is. 32mm bases are great because it gives you great opportunity for conversions. A lot of models that have come out, they're bigger. The stuff's getting bigger, So it gives you a lot of room, a lot of custom basing options, a lot of just terraforming it, making it look cool, making it a little bit more true scale, but not quite because that's just a whole lot of work. Then that's fine. But when you take a look at what happened when the Terminators came out. Back in 2005, Games Workshop put Terminators on 40mm bases when they made the new plastic ones. And everybody kind of lost their mind about around the same time as well. But as it turns out, nobody rebased all their stuff. Everybody just kind of, if you bought the new plastic guys, you put them on 40mm bases, it's all good to go. Over time, over the past, say 7, 8 years, we don't see too many Terminators on 25mm bases. It's just kind of phased itself out. Now, I think given time and a lot of 32mm is the standard. If it's going to be the standard and 25mm is replacing 25mm, it's going to have a little bit broader, aspect to it. But when it comes to the Terminators, it's kind of, you don't really see Terminators on 25mm. Now in the future, we may see a lot more stuff on 25mm, in the meantime. But then, as new people get into it, old people filter out, minis get changed, things like that. I think we'll see in 7, 8 years, everybody has their stuff on 32mm bases. Games Workshop answered the question. Somebody wrote in, and I think it posted up on Fayette. It was, Dear Sir and Madame, I have a question. Can you explain what units will utilize the new 32mm bases? And paraphrasing, basically at the end, they're like, the new 32mm bases were a design shape choice made by the sculptors to make the Death Company look more imposing. There is no specific base that you'll have to use for the Death Company. So if you wish to mount them on the smaller 20mm base, that is fine. But if you'd rather have the larger 32mm base, that is also fine. I hope this helps. Kind regards, Games Workshop. Well, it doesn't quite help because there isn't a 40k model that's on a 20mm base, but that being said, I guess it's okay. I think we know what they meant there. So thank you for that. Thanks for posting that up for everybody to take a look at, because that kind of shed some light on what's going on. Now there's all sorts of conspiracy theorists and things out there saying, hey, Games Workshop did this to try to copyright a shape, a size, and you can't copyright shapes, obviously. But you can copyright the exact beveled and lips and things like that. You can, as an assembly, as a device, you can most definitely copyright it. And that may be what they're going for. That might not be. Maybe it's just to show off their miniatures. They always said they're a miniatures company and they're all about miniatures, and that's great. And I think obviously showing off the new models with these bigger bases and the bigger opportunity to have sweet terrain and all sorts of grasses and winter and tufts and all sorts of things on that, I think that's great. I also think that yes, it will trickle down to some of the resin guys out there, some of the base manufacturers. I think, unfortunately, will be a little bit affected by it. But, it's an opportunity for a brand new product line, for them. You know, you can make some insert things, some bagels, so to speak, you know, that go over the old base, and convert it over to a 32 millimeter base. Hopefully some of these guys have stuff on computer files, and they can just drag and drop and get their new pattern right into a new base and get it out. You know, we're going to see lots of new products, lots of new opportunity for growth and excitement, and that's what makes this hobby great. I feel like, you know, yeah, okay, you gotta change. You know, that nobody likes change. Nobody likes change, but change is sometimes for the better, and it's going to be cool to see these bigger bases, bigger opportunity for all sorts of different hobby ideas, conversions, terrain modifications, you know, little bits of like crunched up tanks and armor and things like that. And also it gives the sculptor guys from GW carte blanche to make their stuff a little bit bigger. You know, maybe we'll see some of these Primarchs and these captains and these legendary guys and things like that, and, you know, showcase models. And I'm very excited for it. I think it's a great opportunity for the game. So now let's take a look at the science, because there's a science thing behind it too, as far as gameplay goes. That definitely we need to talk about, because it bears in mind that obviously if you're bigger base, more stuff is going to get clipped by templates. In 7th edition, it only has to be partially under a template to get affected by blast or blast template. You know, if you're using the teardrop flamer template, that's important because more stuff can get hit. However, it has to be more spread out. And if you take that into account, maybe you can mitigate it some, maybe you can't. It's hard to say. But I think it leaves some different tactical opportunities there. Speaking of tactical opportunities, let's take a look at your basic 10-man tactical squad. A basic 10-man tactical squad is going to, you know, normally take up 250 millimeters, because it's 25 millimeters each. If they spread out between them, you know, an extra 2 inches, then you're talking about a very large footprint, because you're basically just tripled it, because the space between them is basically 50 millimeters. So, well, let's just forget that. Let's just take into account that a base is going from 25 to 32 millimeters. So there's an increase in 7 millimeters diameter in between those two, right? So that being said, multiply by 10, you get 70 millimeters. 70 millimeters is almost 3 inches, give or take. It's roughly 75, 76 millimeters to equal 3 inches. So now your 10-man tactical might have taken up this footprint. Now they're going to take up this footprint. And of course, if you spread them out exactly 2 inches, they're going to take up more than a camera can hold. But that being said, just keep that in mind, because now you can spread out more on the tabletop. Now you can spread out, you can take things, you can be near, you know, be able to go after certain things, you be able to threaten over here, threaten over here. Sometimes the threat of power is just as good as power itself. In the tabletop, time is invaluable. You cannot point out time on the tabletop, and if you can threaten people and get them, push them away from where they need to go, that 200-point tactical squad, 250-point tactical squad just tripled its points just based off of messing with somebody on the time. You know, you put them behind a turn, who knows how many points that's worth in game of 40k, right? So that also being said, if you're spaced out more between the guys, because the base is 32, the base is 32, 2 inches between them, it's going to be a little bit rough for giving cover to stuff behind them, because you're not, you know, you're basically supposed to be blocking, you know, lines. When it comes to tanks and things like that, you have to have scare 1 in 25%. And if your guys used to be right here and now they're like out to here, that could be a pretty big gap. You know, that could almost, something straight on could shoot straight back at a tank. So you got to definitely keep that in mind too. As far as your cover goes, you might not be able to give quite as much cover as easily as you did in the past if this becomes the new standard. So, you know, there's those 3 key things that you definitely have to keep in mind when you're on the tabletop. Another thing too is keeping that 10-man tactical squad example in mind. Your pile-in moves in combat are 3 inches now, and 3 inches, we just talked about that. They just gained an extra 3 inches if you spread them out, you know, between all the bases, counting that up. So you really need to keep that in mind when you're piling into combat, where the positioning of your champions are and things like that for challenges, for piling in with your initiative 1 weapons, and also 3 inches is what determines if you control objectives. So you really want to keep that in mind too, because, you know, you don't want to get blasted off an objective because you don't have enough guys up there, and if you can't fit as many guys up around the objective because they're so, the bases are so much bigger. It's definitely going to come into play, I think. And so it's there's a lot more tactical aspect to the actual base change than just the aesthetic appeal to the models themselves. So you definitely want to keep all of these things in mind when you're playing. Obviously, it's going to probably affect Blood Angel players the most first. But then it's going to, I really see this trickling down. Maybe we'll see, the first Necron releases will be 32 millimeters, as we go down. Maybe people will just want to buy a bunch of bases and rebase all their stuff. Who knows? I mean, if that's your hobby and you only have one army and you want a hobby, you don't want to buy new models, pick up some packs of 32 millimeter bases and go crazy. Make some snow fields, make some thawing the desert scenes. Make some thawing glaciers. Whatever you make it your hobby. That's what it's all about. It's all about making it your hobby. So I just want to get on here real quick and talk about all that. There's an article about it back on Spiky Bits blog that you can definitely check out as well. If you haven't noticed my new digs here, I took over TPM Studios. I'm visiting Atlanta for the holiday, sort of making my way back to the Mason-Dixon line, so to speak, back home there up to Virginia. So we'll be here for a few days. Hopefully recording some podcasts and some battle reports and things like that. So that's it for this one, guys. Make sure you check out the blog, spikybitsblog.com. Listen to our podcast, forgenarrative.com, and definitely make sure you hit subscribe right here and stay on top of all the news and cool hobby-related stuff that we have to offer here at Spiky Bits.